Did you know that stress can kill you? It can actually literally kill you. Hello, everybody. My name is Malaya Kishora, and I am a licensed mental health counselor, and I am a certified comedic yoga instructor. And my YouTube channel is here to help you navigate through your mental health journey, to help you move through your spiritual journey from that holistic, somatic based perspective. So, today we are talking about stress and how it affects the body. So, according to the American Institute of Stress, stress is a public health concern, and 55% of Americans are dealing with stress on an everyday basis. And I bet y'all can guess the number one reason for stress in America. And of course, inflation, right? So our bills are going up and we're having to work at jobs that we hate, and it is causing people to be extremely stressed. And there are other factors that cultivate stress, and we'll talk about that as we consistently go through this process. So, what is stress? According to Handstyle, and I could be pronouncing his last name wrong, but he is a biologist, and he reports that stress is a unspecified stimulus that is causing the body to have a response. And this response can be from a pleasant or unpleasant stimuli. It doesn't necessarily matter. The body is going to respond whether it is eustress or distress. So we'll talk about those two types of stress. So first and foremost, eustress is a form of stress that happens when we're doing something that is stressful, but it's kind of positive, right? So for example, we're taking an exam and we're getting ready to kind of prepare for that exam, or maybe we're about to graduate or something like that. So we're having to get everything together for graduation. We're going to college and we're preparing for that. So something that is causing your body stress, and your body is going to have a response. However, it's not necessarily negative because you are having transient releases of cortisol. So you're not having prolonged releases of cortisol, and cortisol is our stress hormone. And we're going to go into the different types of hormones. But when we have that transient release, so that means that you have that stress and then you go back to your homeostasis. This is actually super positive because this helps the body to adapt to stress, because realistically, we're all going to have stressful situations or things that happen in our lives. However, we always need to know how to manage and handle that demand, right? It's always about stress management, and that's what what we're going to discuss is how to manage stress. So on the opposition, right, we have distress. And distress is a little bit different because distress is more so of that constant stress, so chronic stress, right? And so basically, if we're experiencing a natural disaster, if we're going through some type of abuse, like as a child or just in our everyday life, stalking, domestic violence, if we're at work and we're just so stressed out because we literally hate it, and it's something that is not feeding our souls, where our nervous system is being flooded with cortisol, and we're not having that transient form of cortisol. So it's just like cortisol release all day, right? And so that is where we get to that chronic stress, and that's what distress is. And so that is terrible for you, and it's terrible on so many different levels because stress is really that silent killer. And we're going to talk about the body's response to stress and what that looks like. All right, y'all, I just want to pop this in here really quickly. So if you are struggling with your mental health and you need somebody to talk to, I got y'all. As I told y'all, I am a licensed mental health counselor. Not to say that I'm going to be the one counseling y'all, but I got something cool for y'all. So if you're interested in therapy, and I feel like therapy is so important. It's so important to help you perceive yourself, help you to be able to process information. If you're dealing with depression, it's so good to help you move through your depression, your anxiety. And so I have online therapy for you. This is a platform that you can work with a live person, and you can text your person or talk to them. You can talk to them. You can do phone calls. You can do video chats. You have access to meditations, to yoga flows, to so many different healing modalities to help you move through whatever you're dealing with. And I have a 20% discount for you for your first month with online therapy, and the link is right below. So go ahead on, check it out. Go get that extra help. Like, We all need it. It's nothing wrong with it. Let's make sure we break that stigma because it's okay to get help. Hey, kid. All right, we have a visitor, but that's fine. Okay, so now we are going to talk about our nervous system. So specifically, we're going to talk about the autonomic nervous system. And so this is the involuntary aspect of the nervous system. So what this aspect of the nervous system's job is to keep the homeostasis of the body. And so this is really about it regulates our breathing, our blood pressure, our heart rate, the fluids in our body. So urination, making sure our food is processing, our stomach acid, and our stomach acid in the body, and just anything that keeps our body in its homeostasis. And so this nervous system is super important because it has two aspects of it. It has our sympathetic nervous system and our parasympathetic nervous system. So both of these are oppositions, right? Because our sympathetic nervous system is that aspect of the nervous system that basically helps us when we have a threat response. So it activates the body and it puts us in that place to respond to a threat. And so parasympathetic nervous system is the opposite. And so it puts us in that regulating of our body, regulating our heart rate, regulating our blood pressure. So it does the opposite of the sympathetic nervous system. And so we're going to go into what that specifically looks like. Excuse me, ma'am. Are you serious? Did you really just do that? You know, mommy's not even dealing with this anymore. So let's talk about the different aspects of the nervous system and our threat responders, which is a part of that limbic system. Just like Han Siles said, he said that the body is going to have a response, whether it is a pleasant or unpleasant stimuli. So no matter what happens, if there is a perceived threat, whether it is that assignment that we got to get done tomorrow, or we're being abused, or we're like kind of running for our lives, our body is still going to have a threat response. And so what happens is it starts with the sensory organs. So our eyes, our ears, you know, is receiving this information. And so it's sending the information to the amygdala. And so the amygdala is perceiving this information, right? And so the amygdala is like, okay, this is definitely a threat, right? And so that the amygdala sends that information to the hypothalamus. So the hypothalamus is basically like the alert system of the brain that basically tells everything like what to do. And so it activates the sympathetic nervous system and the adrenal medullary endocrine system. So the first hormone that comes to kind of help protect us, help us out when it's that threat response, is norepinephrine. And so norepinephrine, it comes within 2 to 3 seconds of that threat response. And so norepinephrine is basically the fight or flight response. So it tells us if we gonna bow, or we gonna get out the jam, right? And so this hormone, this term fight or flight, was coined by Walter Cannon. He was a physiologist at Harvard in the early 20th century. Next, we have adrenaline. I'm sure y'all heard of adrenaline, right? I feel like norepinephrine is the one that a lot of people don't hear about, but adrenaline comes next, and this comes within 20 to 30 seconds of the threat response. And then last but not least, I don't know, does that make sense? All right, the last one that comes to us is cortisol, and cortisol is the hormone that is basically the most potent, the most powerful, the one that we are really looking for to kind of help us push out and keep going within that process of our threat response. And so our cortisol peaks at about 25 minutes into the threat response. And so I'm going to break down what these specific hormones are doing to the body as we're going through that threat response, and why too much of these hormones are not good when they're constantly being released. And it's not just that transient release, right, that we talked about earlier, but when it's like constantly going and going and going and going and going, and we just in that chronic stress period, because that's not a good place to be. So how our body is responding to the threat related stimuli is, first and foremost, we have our heart rate that is beginning to increase, right, due to adrenaline that is binding with the beta receptors in our body. We have our heart, our blood vessels are beginning to restrict, which is increasing our blood pressure. Our airways are opening up so we can receive as much oxygen. Glucose is flooding into our blood so that we can have more energy, right? So that we can fight, bow, 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 or we can get out the jam. So there is an overall increase in our metabolic rate, our oxygen consumption, and our heat production. And this is due to adrenaline. And so this is really, I'm talking about adrenaline and norepinephrine, and I'm going to go into what cortisol is doing to the body as well. And so what this does is it makes you sweat more because you doing what you got to do. Your body is amping itself up so that it can do what is necessary. So our gastrointestinal tract is not working the same, so it's basically inhibited, and so basically our digestion slows down at this point. And I want y'all to, as I'm talking about these things, think about how this will affect somebody if this is happening on a consistent basis. What cortisol does, unlike norepinephrine and adrenaline, cortisol, it breaks the blood-brain barrier. So what that means is that there are two receptors specifically that cortisol is binding with in the brain. And so cortisol is binding to the brain, and it is basically changing our brain waves. So usually we're in an alpha state, which is more of like a calm, like present state. But when we're in a beta state, and that is what that cortisol does, is it puts us in that beta state. And so we're more alert, we're more on 10, just like bow, bow, bow. Cortisol also actually completely suppresses the reproductive functions. It suppresses our digestive systems, and it also suppresses our growth processes. And it also changes how our immune system functions as well. Cortisol also increases our blood pressure and our heart rate as well. So making sure that blood is flowing to the specific organs that we need when we are in our threat response, and the organs that are not necessarily needing that blood. Cortisol also increases the blood that is the sugar, the glucose that is flooding into the blood. So really enhancing that fight or flight response that we're having from that norepinephrine. Cortisol also increases our oxidative stress, and it causes nerve damage to the cells, and it reduces the concentration of antioxidants in the body. And this causes an imbalance between free radicals and antioxidants in the body. So realistically, when the threat response goes away, our system should go back to normal. We should go back into our homeostasis, or as close to it as possible. But when that does not happen, we're in that chronic stress place. That is when all the issues start happening to our body. So we gonna talk about what that looks like, because it ain't good. I ain't even gonna hold you, it's not good. Almost every function in the body can be damaged and will be damaged by chronic stress. So in regards to breathing, it's harder for people to get oxygen when they are dealing with chronic stress and they're having constant releases of these stress hormones. And so people who have asthma, it makes it even harder for them. As we already talked about, there's an increase in our heart rate and our blood pressure, which can cause heart attacks, right? Strokes, high blood pressure. So muscles become extremely tense, right? Because when we're in that fight or flight response, our body tenses up. And so we're only exerting energy to what needs to be given energy. So whether we're fighting or we're flighting, we're giving that energy to that place in our body, which causes that restriction in some areas of the body. So this can cause headaches, this can cause tension, this can cause migraines. That extra glucose that is being produced by the liver is not always able to be reabsorbed into the bloodstream. And so what happens is this can cultivate and cause type 2 diabetes. And that overexposure to cortisol can cause thyroid dysfunction, and it can cause us to not think as clearly, and this also can cause more body fat, abdominal fat specifically. The overexposure to the stress hormones can also cause acid reflux, stomach issues, as well as changes in our eating pattern. So loss of libido, right? Not wanting to have sex, and for women this can cause losing their periods and not being able to menstruate, and for men this can be impotency. Stress also reduces our gray matter in the brain, and so gray matter is it helps us to regulate our emotions. It focuses on concentration as well as memory and other physiological processes in the body. And so when we're constantly experiencing these stress hormones, it is reducing that gray matter in the brain. Stress suspends tissue repair and remodeling. And so what this does is it causes decalcification of the bones. And so this can make you more susceptible to fractures and osteoporosis. So this can also cause the inhibition of your immune system and your inflammatory system. So you're more likely to get a cold or a flu. So I know, for example, with that, when I was in school, like every time after a semester, I would get super sick. Like I would just be passed out. Couldn't handle it. And so I knew that I was so stressed, and so my body was just like, once that stress was over, it was just like, all right, I'm over here dying. Let me get myself back together. So if you have like AIDS or cancers or any like immune issues, stress can exacerbate it, make it 10 times worse. When you're stressed, you're more likely to get depression or anxiety. Chronic stress also increases the risk of cognitive impairment as well as Alzheimer's. It increases the risk of PTSD and eating disorder. And also it increases the risk of suicide in young adults. And lastly, what I'm going to say is chronic stress, it causes oxidative stress in the body. Whew, y'all, that's a lot. Oh my gosh. So just think about that. Like, think about everything that when you're stressed and you're stressed all the time, how this is affecting your everyday life. So let's figure out how to manage your stress. And so that's what we're going to talk about. This is actually always my favorite part, is because wow, okay, calm down, Malaya. I was getting excited. But this is my favorite part, because realistically, I'm not going to say that we are, we can just heal stress completely, because life is stressful sometimes, and that's okay, but it's important to know how to manage it, how to regulate, how to come back to your homeostasis, because things happen, and it's okay. Because things happen, and it's okay to be triggered. It's okay to be stressed, but understanding like, okay, this is what I need when I'm stressed. So research shows that positive emotions is a very powerful way to help combat stress. And I'm not talking about that fake positivity, no. What I'm talking about is gratitude and compassion, right? Having compassion for yourself, like giving yourself hugs, letting yourself know like it's going to be okay. And really that positive self-talk, right? Not being hard on yourself, like, oh, you dumb mother. Like, no, being like, it's cool, we got this, we gonna figure it out, right? Really combating those negative thoughts as well is very important. And when I talk about emotions, in regards to stress, is whatever emotion you're feeling, whether it's frustration, anger, whatever you're feeling, allow yourself to feel through it. Identify what that emotion is, number one, because I feel like a lot of people spend a lot of time acting like, oh no, I don't feel this, I don't feel that, I'm just angry. No, anger a lot of time is that cover up emotion. It's that emotion when we're looking at that iceberg, it's at the top, and it's all these other things like disrespect, hurt, frustration, sadness, confusion that is really under that iceberg. So in identifying the emotion, what are you actually feeling, and allow yourself to feel through it, but also have gratitude for yourself, have gratitude for the place that you're in, right? Because in reality, it could always be worse. And not to negate what you're experiencing, but just acknowledging that there is room to always have gratitude. And like I said, in the research, that really shows to be something that helps you to move through and manage that stress. But utilizing humor, right? Laughing at yourself, like making a joke out of it, that really eases the stress. It actually eases any type of trauma that you're dealing with, even when it's hard to laugh. Like, kind of see your life as a game. Like, have a little bit of fun, even if you can't. And we'll talk about this in more videos, but that is a really powerful way to help to negate the stress. Yoga. I mean, not even just yoga, some type of physical movement. The body needs movement. And as I'm talking about this, I'm telling you guys that this is a body's response to a unspecified stimulus, whether it's positive or negative. So you have to match the body with the body. You can't necessarily talk out stress. So going to work out, go to take a run, go to do a workout class, a pole dancing class, Pilates, okay, classes I'm taking. All right. But take some fun classes, go to the gym, right? Weightlifting is super, super powerful. Also, like I said, yoga is an internal regulating system, and that system is super, super powerful to help you manage and regulate your stress. One of my favorites, and one of the ones that is kind of counterintuitive, because I feel like a lot of times when we're stressed, we like to isolate ourselves, or if we're going through something, we love to isolate, right? I am 100% guilty of it. I'd be like, all right, nobody talk to me. And sometimes isolation, it is necessary, right, for your own healing journey. But human connections is so important. As humans, we need humans. So go connect with somebody. Go talk to somebody. Go find a therapist to talk to, right? If you ain't got no friends, if you ain't got no family, go get a therapist. Go somewhere to connect with somebody. Get a pet. Like I got Kitty. That's my girl. But get you a pet. Get, emotional support animal. But just finding those little things, whatever works for you. Finding a hobby, a form of expressive arts, right? Whether that's crocheting, my friend was just telling me how she's getting into crocheting. Whether that's knitting, whether that's pickleball, just some type of activity. And one of the two most important things that I'm going to talk about is meditation. There is so much research on meditation, and specifically I'm going to talk about the research on the increase of gray matter. So as we talked about, when we are stressed, it reduces gray matter in the brain. So meditation, there was a study that actually shows that meditation, it increases that gray matter in the brain. Meditation helps with the negative self-talk that we might have. It helps with mental clarity and emotional regulation. It helps with brain processing and perceiving ourselves. So meditation is one of the most powerful things that you can do. And it actually has a lot of physiological components to it that it helps to heal as well. So when you meditate, it also brings our brain back to that alpha state, right? So we're in that beta stage, it brings us back to that alpha state. It also lowers your heart rate. Meditation has actually prevented and treated high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, migraines, headaches. It supports with helping you out with obsessive thinking, depression, and anxiety. And I can speak for all of these because I've been meditating since 2016. And when I tell you, I used to be in my head like crazy. I'm like, what's going on? What's going on? But meditation has really just helped me I don't have all them crazy thoughts. And when I do, I call them out and I be like, who you talking to? Who you talking to? And we're going to talk, I want to do another video about combating negative thoughts, because working with a lot of clients, that's something that I hear a lot. Negative thoughts and how they're basically consuming you. It's like the thoughts attack you. And that's a real thing. So the last thing I'm going to talk about is breathing, and a specific type of breathing. So the breathing that I'm going to talk about is inhaling through our nose, exhaling through our nose. And as we expand our stomach, we inhale, and we contract our stomach, we exhale. And so when we breathe, we inhale for 4 counts and we exhale for 8 counts. So our exhale is always doubled our inhale. And this is the breathing that I learned in Comedic Yoga. And what this breathing does is it actually regulates and it activates our parasympathetic nervous system, which I talked about at the beginning of this whole process. That is the part of the nervous system that helps us go back to our homeostasis. And so this breathing is so important. And I actually have a video that I will link at the bottom that talks about how to breathe. I would love for you guys to please like this. If you vibe with this, if you feel like this is something you can connect with, like the video. Because guess what? When we like it, we're actually working with the algorithm to help push this information out to more people. Because personally, I feel like that's what we need. More people need this information. And that's why I'm doing this, because I say the same thing to my clients all day. I literally have the same conversations, and I'm like, I think more people need this information. So let's subscribe to the channel, turn on the notifications, follow me on all my social medias, y'all. I got everything below. I'm not about to say all my social medias, but just check me out. Check me out if you're interested. I would love to connect with you. Please tell me other video ideas. Oh my gosh, tell me what are other things that you guys would like to hear about in regards to mental health, holistic healing, somatic based work, spirituality. Like, I'm so down for all the good conversations, and I'll make whatever videos you guys are interested in. And I will talk to y'all later. Thank you so much. Bye.